All right, we should be live, and Jeremy's
Right
still
on.
with me there from there.
I got
All
you.
right, awesome. So, hey everybody, welcome to Cyber Social Hub, our Hubcasts. First, if you guys could use like a chat, I don't know where I'm at here, but there should be a chat in the lower right-hand corner of your browser window. That if you guys can see us, hear us, say yes. Hey, awesome. Hey, David is here from Latent Wireless. I just see him. Thanks, Dave. I
Right on.
appreciate it. And Megan, great. Thanks, guys. Okay, cool. Well, it's working. Hey, thanks everybody. Awesome. So this is we've used this platform one other time, and David can attest. He was my first victim, and now Jeremy is here. He is victim number 2, and so the system's a little new to us, so just bear with us if we kind of struggle through it a little bit. If you have questions of Jeremy or myself at any time, down along that lower bottom bar somewhere, there is ask a question. If you could ask it there, that's perfect. Because what happens with this is when you ask the question, we answer it, we can put it's like a bookmark in the video. It's really strange how it works. And we hit that. And as soon as Jeremy answers the question, and that way somebody watching the replay later on, and they have that same question, they want an answer to that, they just tap that, and it takes them right to the video where that was. So that's awesome that it can be done there. So try to do it right there if you can. But like I said, hey, Jeremy Kirby from Susteen is our victim here today. So Jeremy, number one, I appreciate you taking the time out of your day. I know I'm taking stuff away from your normal work hours to pull you into this, and I really appreciate it.
Absolutely. Thank you.
So a little background, just my experience with Susteen is I started mobile forensics back in 2002-ish, something like that, 2003-ish. And one of the very first products I learned was on Susteen. And I think it was the standard. It was before it was like labeled a forensic product, right? It was like the one I could go to Best Buy and buy and purchase.
Yeah, it was kind of funny because way back when, the way that they found out that law enforcement was using the old DATAPILOT so much was all of a sudden in some of the calls, the inbound calls that they were getting, even some tech calls, and they noticed that it was like law enforcement guy, deputy, and they're like, this is strange because normally we're getting mom and pop people, and all of a sudden we're getting these deputies on the phone, these agents and everything else, and that's how they realized that it was being heavily used by law enforcement. And then as we all know, the whole industry took off, which is cool.
Yeah, it went kind of the necessity of pulling data from phones and stuff. Sorry, I'm just making my window smaller here, there, so I can. There we go. All right. Yeah, so it's been around a while, and I remember when the software opened up, it looked like the old, and I don't know what phone it was based off of. It was just that old flip phone, that silver looking. It wasn't StarTAC. It was a little newer than that.
Yeah,
looking.
like Nokia or something. One of the old ones.
Right. Yeah. It was pretty cool. And probably my favorite thing was the animals that were on all of the cables back then that, I'd always say, I know I need the elephant or I need this. It was very well made for, whether intended or not, for law enforcement. It was like, we didn't have to go, we need cable 2954, whatever. No, give me the elephant.
Keep it simple, stupid. That's what we all say, right?
It worked well, man.
Yeah. There you
go. Being a former drug officer myself that was kind of the bar that we always set. We'd always say if a drug unit can use it and they cannot completely destroy it, we know it's good for law enforcement, because it's kind of where you have to set that bar, right?
Yep.
So good stuff.
That's awesome.
So I want to talk a little bit before we get into the real nuts and bolts of the talk. Sure. A little bit about you. Tell us a little bit about you. When did you start with Susteen?
So I've been here since about 2012. So a good amount of time now, 2011, that area. I started back when kind of SecureView and Susteen was going through a lot of changes. Before that time, the company had kind of rested on their laurels because we were one of the first ones out there, here, and we were US based. So we had a large kind of core group of customers, which was good. But at that time, we weren't really keeping up with the times, so to speak. One of the ways that that drives us, especially now, was innovation. Going through and trying to create new ideas. And we did kind of find ourselves when I got there in a lull. And one of the first things that we started to do at that time was kind of reevaluate and try to make sure that we were just really always innovating and creating new ideas, and and keeping up with the times and that type of thing. But it was interesting for me because before digital forensics, I was the director of admissions for a university, but for military admissions and law enforcement, same thing. So it would be guys,
wow. I didn't know that.
VA benefits and and all that type of stuff, and military spouse benefits. And so for years before coming here, my mission was literally to help law enforcement personnel, government personnel, military personnel to be able to get their degrees and be able to use those military benefits, which were not always the easiest thing to use. Everyone knows about GI Bill and VA and my CAA, the spouse stuff, but do you actually know how to use it? And if not used properly, you don't really get the full, aspect of that. So it was awesome really being able to help those in need to go ahead and better their lives, get their degrees. And then I just happened to come across Susteen. It was kind of the same industry, meaning again, government, law enforcement, that type of thing. And it was just so intriguing to be able to work at a company that, if you come outside of mobile forensics, you think it's, maybe like Mission Impossible. You find out later it's a lot more based in reality. But, at first you're just, you think of the movies, that type of thing. So came to Susteen, and it's so exciting, getting to work with the agencies that we do, and I don't mean just the big, large government guys, but really just even the small townships, helping them keep their community safe. It's awesome. Getting to wake up every day and help those that help their community is amazing.
Right. And you have some other background that I don't know if many people know. And I've known you on and off for a number of years from my time in the industry. But I had no idea. I had no idea until probably within the last year. And there's a poster behind you that I'm going to allude to a little bit, is that last name Kirby. And I'll just let you explain about that. Tell us a little bit about the picture and how that last name applies.
So I usually, and I do kind of sometimes keep it to myself. So I don't usually put it out there, but so my grandfather, his name is Jack Kirby, and he created or co-created everyone from Captain America to Fantastic Four to the Avengers to Black Panther, you name it, Iron Man, name it, X-Men, you name a character, he did it. Silver Surfer created New Gods over at DC. So the new Eternals movie that comes out next year through Marvel, that was all him as well. So
no kidding.
Some cool posters in the background.
That's awesome.
A little bit of original art, not much, but some stuff there. But he really shaped kind of the person that I became, because he was always creating these superheroes. And obviously, it's tough to be a superhero, but if you can at least try to leave this world a little better than when you entered it, then you've done your part, to try to make the world a little bit better, which I think each of us has the ability to definitely do. So I try to live by that mantra as well. Which is neat.
That was so awesome when I learned that fact out. And I'm nerded out a little bit. There's a little mini nerd in me going like, oh, that's so cool.
In fact, it's pretty neat, because a lot of people don't know with the DATAPILOT that Susteen just created, we put out, it's the new field triage device. And it's in use all over the country. It's kind of cool because it's in use with quite a few federal government agencies as well. And the original working title of the DATAPILOT was OMAC. And I got that because when I had the idea for the field triage device, my grandfather had a character he created for DC Comics called OMAC, and it was the one-man Army Corps. So it took place in the future, and it was one guy that worked with the satellite that beamed him and turned him into a superhero, and he'd fight crime. And it's again OMAC. So when we first designed this, it was actually code named OMAC when it was in development and testing. So, and even in the code, if you still with DATAPILOT and some of the code, it actually coded in there says OMAC, which is pretty cool. So I think it's neat that people are running around with an OMAC, and it was kind of my grandfather was one of the superheroes back in the 70s, which was neat. So
that's very cool. That's very cool. That's the first time I had heard that story too. That's awesome.
It's pretty neat. Yeah, I like it a lot. So it's cool.
Yeah. Now you said you have some and I promise we're going to get into the meat of this 10 minutes in. So sorry. Thanks everyone for bearing with me, but these are normally not just webinars. They're a way to have just fun and kind of casual conversation so you can get to know people in the industry. Jeremy's a good person to get to know. You have something sitting there on your desk because you showed it real quickly in the green room prior to what was that?
I have a few comics, and I know we're talking digital forensics. It's a little weird to get off that, but for anyone maybe who just wants to see, I'll switch my camera real fast just so you guys can kind of see. So give it a second. And
yeah, hopefully it doesn't boot you out. If not, I'll bring you right back to the stage if it does. I'm so nerded out by this. I'm just saying.
Can you hear me and see me?
Yeah, absolutely. I can.
So again, probably not too many comic book fans here, but you never know. So this is this Captain America number 100. So kind of a cool book there.
That's very cool.
Which is awesome. My grandfather co-created the Black Panther, so I have quite a bit of #1 Black Panther books, which is nice.
Oh, wow.
In fact, I actually have the original concept piece for the Black Panther that was done a year or two before they even came up with the character. And it's really, in fact, it will be when everything opens back up, it's going to be in the Smithsonian. I'm going to donate it for a period of time for the African American Museum there as part of the Smithsonian in Washington, D.C. So I'm excited to get that out there to them. And I think that's great. So it's pretty cool. I do not have that to show you because that's locked away. But I do think this is pretty neat. This is Hulk #1. So that is an actual Hulk #1 comic book. You can see it's kind of behind some glass there, but yeah. So
and there you brought it out for us today, man. That's awesome.
I did. Yeah, it's tough. That's a tough one for me to grab too. So there you guys go. Anyway, I hope you enjoy it. So if anyone does want to talk comics, we'll talk a little digital forensics in the future as well, but feel free to hit me up with any comics questions, I guess. After
they have a channel. You have a channel on Twitter specifically for some of this, right?
I do. Yeah. It's Jack Kirby Comics, Jack Kirby Comics. It's on Twitter. I'm sure if you type in Jack Kirby, you'll find me. And I always post my grandfather's stuff, try to keep his memory alive. A lot of people they know the creations, obviously, they know the art, obviously, but they don't always know the name behind it because he was a workhorse, and he unfortunately passed away back in the 90s. So before these Marvel movies really came out. So he was never doing any promotional things or anything like that. So a lot of people don't know that he created or co-created these characters. But next time you actually watch the movie, you'll see his name right there at the end, end of the movie, with, big and, in full blast. So there you go. But awesome. I will switch my camera back over now.
That's awesome. Thank you for sharing with that. And I thank you everybody for bearing through some of my nerdiness that I wanted to see. It was part of the conditions. Hopefully Jeremy would come on and bring some of this stuff.
Right on.
So let's talk about what we're here to talk about.
And we're back. Okay.
Yeah, welcome back. We'll talk about what we're here to talk about now.
Right on.
And so it's been how long now? Almost 2 years out now, maybe. So Susteen came out with kind of an original piece in the industry, a tool that was like really no other. DATAPILOT, DATAPILOT 10 specifically, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So I guess tell people a little bit about that. What makes it so unique? What does this thing do?
So really, and again, myself being on the front line and my team, we're constantly talking to guys out there in the field, guys and gals out there in the field. And we recognized with our normal SecureView, which is of course the full suite of software, we noticed that more and more people were obviously having hard time getting into locked phones or just getting into phones in general. A lot of burner phones, you got a lot of new locked iPhones, that type of thing. And it's very hard to keep up with breaking PIN codes, breaking passcodes, and it gets very expensive. So sometimes it can be done, but you're paying $15,000 to $30,000 to $60,000 to be able to do so, right? As an agency. And I thought, look, there's got to be a better way. There's got to be an easier way that can really help our agencies out there. And we also realized that although police departments, sheriff's departments, and other agencies, they were collecting the suspects' phones and getting data from the suspects' phones, that in a lot of cases they were forgetting the victims and especially the witnesses. And with mass attacks, that type of stuff, you might have hundreds of witnesses. And the witnesses might be okay with you taking that one picture off their phone or that one video off their phone, but they're not okay with them giving you their phone for you, for you to take back to the lab. It takes a week, it takes 2 weeks, 3 weeks. That's not okay. So immediately we saw the need and we went to designing the data pilot. And why we did that, we had a few things in focus. We wanted it to be affordable. It can't just be another $10,000, $12,000 tool that we expect law enforcement to pay for, because everyone expects law enforcement to pay that amount. No, that's not what we wanted. So we wanted an affordable tool. We wanted a fast tool, something that can get to that evidence needed immediately. It's great to get everything off of a phone, but that takes 6 to 8 hours, and then you have to parse it, and then you're looking through it. What we wanted was something that could get to the evidence data you needed instantly, so that you could decide, A, if you need to bring that phone now back to the lab, or that suspect or that victim or that witness, or C, just allow them to get to that evidence data so that they can make an informed decision actually in the field, which is very important, rather than waiting until things get back to the lab. So we created the DATAPILOT 10. And it's just been amazing. It's out there in the field. It's in use every day. It's being taught down in Hoover by NCFI as their first responders class. We were so excited to be able to help them out, and it's just a perfect fit because it's easy to use. It's not something that was specifically built to be tough, so that you need to now take certified training and pay additional money. It was made so that there's 2 buttons, you push them, you get to the evidence, and you help your case. And it's just, I love it. I love the tool a lot.
Yeah. I first heard about it, I was like, this is awesome. Why this should be known to, law enforcement, first responders out there, because as many times that, when I used to work patrol, it's like, man, I could have used that information like right then, like right now, that would have helped a ton of things. Instead, send it to a lab, wait how backup time of the lab comes back. And, it's really a great first responder triage tool. And I was actually just on the phone a little bit ago with a probation parole guy talking, and the topic of this came up, and he's like, I want to know more about this. And I'm like, well, can we finish what we're talking about first? So I may have a referral for you, by the way.
All right.
It's worked out. You have one of those nearby by chance?
I do. I'm obviously working from home like most of you right now. So Susteen's going strong, but a lot of us are working out of the houses. So I do have my little unit here. So again, just so you can see, it's small, right? It's very portable. It is ruggedized.
It's the same size as my iPhone.
Exactly.
I mean, it's right there.
And that was the point, is we didn't want something that's hard to use, that's something that's bulky. We wanted something that's easy, that charges itself. It charges phones as well, because when was the last time a drug task force guy came across a suspect who had a phone that wasn't half broken, dropped 1 million times, and never is full of battery? So the point was to be able to use this to basically not just acquire, but to power that phone while it's acquiring as well, to keep it alive. So it's it. Again, just real simple, and a touch screen. It's an actual computer. So people think it's like an Android-based device. It's not. It is an IoT Windows device. It is an actual powerful computer to be able to pull that data off. All the logicals, and then with our TDK, it's pulling physicals now off of USBs and SD cards and all that good stuff. So now people are using it for drones and dash cams. I mean, you name it. It's awesome. So
that's awesome. Now I put a quick link in chat for the features page if somebody wants to do it. There's a nice video, I think, from a police department there that you can kind of get how the case use is for it. But you mentioned the TDK, which is Techno Data Kit.
Yeah.
Talk about that a little bit. What made that part a little different with the device?
It was interesting. So, obviously we have a lot of different types of agencies using the DataPilot 10. And we noticed with a lot of our human trafficking agencies, some ICACs, that type of thing, one of the things that they first let us know is when they were pulling over cars, and some of them are on some large interstates where it's a heavy trafficked interstate, right? So they have people coming up and down. And they realize every time they pull over a car, sometimes there'd be multiple, actually most of the time, multiple USBs, multiple SD cards. And it was more than they could handle with the original DataPilot because that was built strictly for the cell phones. Yes, if the SD card is inside the cell phone, obviously it's going to pull that data too, but they were finding a lot of other digital devices. So what we did is we got together, we created the Techno Data Kit, and it's specifically, has the right blockers and everything else, it's specifically designed to acquire data from additional digital media devices. So now the DataPilot is no longer just a mobile forensic device, it's an actual digital forensic device, USBs, and again, CF cards, SD cards, all of that type of stuff, even some hard drives. It's able to suck that information off and even do it bit by bit. So you're getting a bin file now. It's not just the logical. It's the full physical. But I do love because we're talking about a digital media device instead of a phone. You can actually do what we would consider like a drag and drop. So if I see something on that SD card I want, I just boop. I click on that one thing. I can even if it's a video, I can play it immediately on the DataPilot to see if I need it. But I can click on that exact image and then only pull over that image. And again, why is that important? It's because that's going to take me a few seconds. If I'm going to sit there and get a physical of an entire device, it's going to take me an hour again,
right?
Or more, that type of thing. So again, it's all about speed for us. It's about
I can see the benefits with something like that, especially with because I fly drones. I'm a drone pilot. I got 1, 2, 3, 4 of them now, which is ridiculous. But there's actually, I think, one charging behind. It's actually in the box. It's right here in the box. I was just it's starting to finally warm up in Ohio here, where I'm at, and so I can get out and fly again. So for something like that, thinking from an investigator standpoint, because almost every park here in at least where I'm at, you can't take off or land in the park because they can't control the airspace, but they can control whether you take off or land. So that falls to the park rangers determining where that thing took off or landed. This would be perfect for that. I mean, all you do is pull the SD card, image it real quick, boom, get the telemetry, and
everything's there. Yeah, the drones do a good job about tracking everything.
Right?
You don't even need to track them. They do it all for us. We just need to read it. So absolutely. Yes, it's all there, which is pretty cool. So.
That's awesome. No, that's very cool. So I think it was back in, when was it? Like January you started this with, you understood that, not every agency can afford this because there's so many tools out there.
Yeah.
And not one tool does it all. I mean, there's no way. It's not possible.
Yeah.
But what I found unique about this was that you guys saw the need to kind of get this out to multiple agencies, and necessarily agencies maybe that didn't have a lot of cash or a lot of budget for this. So you actually started a grant program for this. So tell me a little bit about that. What's all involved in the grant?
Yeah, it was actually very exciting to be able to get approved through just the board here at Susteen as well. And what I was excited for is that we specifically set this particular one up to help. I wouldn't call them small agencies, but agencies that are in need. That have a need for that digital forensics, and obviously all agencies do. Some of the larger ones, they just, they have either larger budgets or they can pull, they have slightly better resources to be able to pull grants from federal grants. But for the smaller guys, a lot of times they don't have a grant administrator. They have no one out there, actively searching for funds. So we set it up specifically for agencies that were under a certain amount of sworn either deputies or officers, and it allows them to acquire in an entire kind of package. So it gets them basically an actual certified training. It gets them the devices. It gets them the equipment that's needed. And then we're able to use in-house funds to cover anywhere from about 43 to 47% of the cost for them, which is awesome. So it allows them to be able to get this equipment at just, you know, real discounted prices, and they're able to get that training involved too, which is important as well, which is awesome. So, and it hurts when we do have to turn a few agencies away because they are too large. You know, I won't mention names, but one out in Ohio by you, but we help everyone out, obviously, but it's specifically really set up for, you know, just for making sure that people that either do not have any mobile forensic software, or maybe they have one thing of mobile forensic software, but they have nothing to take out in the field. And it's to make sure that they have the ability to do that. And there's a few different options. So even for larger agencies, I mean, there's a few different options where we'll actually come out and do on-site training for an entire. So if you're, say, again, like sex trafficking or your drug crimes, you know, whatever task force you want, we can theoretically outfit that entire task force and that entire group of people with DP10s, with DataPilot 10s, and then come out and do an actual live on-site training. And it still saves them at that point just thousands and thousands of dollars, which is awesome, because anyone that's in the industry, you guys know, I mean, it's very expensive to be able not just to outfit, you know, with forensic software, but then to get guys certified on it. So it's awesome. And it's a way that we're trying to help. We're trying to get back to the agencies that are in our own communities, because I have guys, we are one of the few US-based mobile forensic software companies out there. So we are in your communities, you know. So, you know, I'm here in Southern California with people in Northern California, with people in Ohio and Pennsylvania. We've had people in Florida and Texas and all these different areas. So it's important to us to keep our own communities safe. And the best way of doing that is to partner with law enforcement. So it's been exciting, and I love everyone that comes in, every new grant that comes in. It's exciting to be able to help that community. And the response has been amazing from the people that have been able to receive the equipment because of it. It's awesome. So I
that's
can't
cool.
thank them enough. So that's why we did this.
Now the grant is just for law enforcement right now, right? So that's what you guys have running currently. I've put it, if you guys actually see, I don't know which side it's on of me. It's either here or here, depending on where my video is at. There's a green button that says apply for the grant. If you guys want to, if you're interested in law enforcement, you qualify, it'll tell you everything that you need to qualify for the grant.
Yep.
But, you know, say I'm private sector and I don't have, you know, I can't apply for the grant. Can I still buy one if I am in the market for one?
Yeah, so we do sell to private sector for the data pilots, which is wonderful. A lot of times we'll ask, and again, it depends on again, like what use case scenarios are out there, that type of thing. But in most states, we're capable of doing so. And then of course we sell overseas as well. We have a few great resellers and distributors that help us out really all over the world, which is great as well. We have a lot of PIs that use the software. That do like billable hours, you know, that type of thing, assurance adjusters, that type of thing. And then some very large, again, I won't say, but a few very large, like corporations, banks use data pilots as well. They love them specifically because, say there's a bank and it's headquartered in New York, and that's where maybe their legal team is or their compliance team is, but they have 5,000 locations, right? And then they have you know, the regional offices. So they basically have a go bag, like we would in the military. They'd have a go bag, they'd grab it, they'd fly out to Phoenix or wherever, Columbus, or wherever one of their other branches is, and they'd be able to do that in the field. And then, so it's pretty cool. We have a robot too. Everyone loves the robot. It's called the burner breaker.
Oh yeah.
I love the robot. It's fun, and breaks into like burner phones. So for your older Androids, burner devices, I mean, it's a robotic arm, so theoretically it'll break in anything. You know, you have a safe that you need to get into, it can be used for both good and evil.
Can we reprogram it?
Yeah, exactly.
Does it make martinis?
Yes. So, but we have that. People love that. I'll go to say an RCFL or something, and they might. I'll still get people that tell me every time they have visitors, they always bust out the robot and put it on a desk and have it going. Because like they want to impress people, and so you'll have civilians come in and they see this robot and they're like, wow, that's amazing, so
that's very cool. I saw a funny, I think it was either a GIF or a meme or something. You see these like when you sign up a form, it always says check here if you're not a robot. I
Yeah.
saw somebody had programmed a robot. It didn't look too much different than the vertebrae, but it could
Actually,
like when I go, yeah, I'm not a robot. The robot was actually checking it. Well, that would be fun.
Right. Hey, you should buy one. You can program it to do anything you want, guys. This is new America.
Sitting here stirring my drink all day. I wouldn't get much use out of it really anymore.
Right. Yep.
But that's very cool. So I'm gonna kind of jump back because I don't know how many law enforcement are here. Also, real quick, if anybody has a question over anything we've talked about, even if it's nothing we talked about, and you just want to know something, and maybe we'll have the answer, maybe we'll not. Right down here at the bottom, there's the Ask a Question button. If you can click that and ask, we can actually bring you up onto what we call the stage here, if you're willing to do that, and ask the question live if you want to. It's entirely up to you whether you want to do that or not. But we'll put Jeremy on the spot and ask him all kinds of questions. Nothing like, are you wearing pants or anything like that, since he's working from home. So you don't want to know. So feel free to ask anything about the grant or any questions about DATAPILOT as we move forward. So with some of the response that you've seen and have seen with DATAPILOT, I worked in the lab. We get called off to scenes all the time, which was, as a lab guy myself, I kind of rolled my eyes sometimes. It's like, oh my gosh, here we got another one yet to do. Something like that just saves so much time. When I was a younger officer, I didn't mind doing that, right? But then after a while, it's like, well, why can't that detective gather that information? Why can't that street officer gather that information? And like I said, I was talking to a probation parole, and what they have to do right now is they're collecting, and they have to send to their local lab, and they have to send it back to their lab, wait however long that lab decides to use it for, or keep the data set, and then get it back to them. And then by then, who knows, maybe the offender knows they've messed up and they're out of here. And I was kind of explaining that you can just literally hook your phone right up to it, plug it in, and see right there and decide whether or not that, they've broken their conditions of their probation or parole.
Yeah.
So go ahead.
I was going to say, it's been real interesting talking to lab guys, because some of the lab guys obviously love it. Some of the lab guys, it takes a minute for them to understand, because and I don't think it's a bad thing, but it's like this mentality of this is mine, so like we've talked to people like, well, I don't want them out there collecting the evidence. I want to collect the evidence. And I'll basically let them know, I'm like, look, to collect evidence, you're pushing a button. You guys are the guys in the lab. You're still the geniuses. You are still going to be the guys analyzing it, going through the data, parsing the data, doing all the stuff that takes time. But to acquire that evidence, you're wasting your time and you're pushing a button, because all you're doing is you're pushing acquire, and then you're waiting for it to download. So you might as well let the guys out in the field, let them push that button, and then you still get to analyze it when it's back to the lab. Go ahead, parse it and look through it and tag it and flag it and everything else that you enjoy. And then when we have that conversation, it's kind of like a light bulb goes on, because it's like, oh yeah, that's true. As long as I'm still the one analyzing it, because that's my position, that's my job, that's what I'm great at and what I love to do, then I don't need to be the guy pushing the button to acquire, especially when the device is easy enough so that there's nothing that can go wrong out there, right? You're choosing Android, you're choosing iPhone. We purposely made it so easy that the actual user guide is built into the DATAPILOT. So on that one page, if you don't know what to do, there's literally the user guide button up at the top right, and it's actionable to that page. So it's not just, you're not scrolling through things, it's telling you everything to do on that page to make it work. So
nice.
It's pretty cool, because again, we purposely designed it for people that are first responders that haven't gone through years of digital forensic training, whether it's through ourselves or a competitor or SANS or whoever it might be. These are people that might not have really ever done much in digital forensics. We wanted to make sure that it can be used easily by them. So
sure. Looks like we have a couple questions. I'll read the first one here to you. I'm going to try to make sure no one's asking if you're wearing pants before I say it out loud. Okay, no one did. Good. So Dave has the question here. Hey, Dave, you probably aren't on your camera right now. I was going to ask if you wanted to come up on screen for this or not. But I know sometimes you're not on your camera one.
Is Dave wearing pants? That's the question.
Dave's not wearing pants. He asks, what are the features or limitations with capturing, say, text messages, conversations from chat apps, things like that?
What's neat about it is there's a few different acquisition methods. So the easiest and best that we pioneered that people love is the link screen, which allows it basically, here's DATAPILOT, here's an iPhone, right? So DATAPILOT will actually mimic the iPhone screen or the Android screen. So the iPhone and the Android, basically, they think that the DATAPILOT is the screen of the iPhone and it links up to it. So anything you can see, and this is why it's been such a huge boon in the industry, anything that you can see on that phone, the DATAPILOT can capture as evidence. So for the first time ever, all your encrypted apps, your Snapchats, your WhatsApps, all of that type, Facebook Messenger, all of that type of stuff, if it's on their phone, you now have it, and you have it instantly, to the point where we even have auto scroll built in for Androids. So say there's 10,000 texts, bloop, you do auto scroll, it'll scroll through, and it's taking basically screenshots of that evidence and then hashing those screenshots as well. So you can't just get them off the device, put them as a picture format and change them later on. They're all hashed at that point as well for court purposes, nice. Chain of custody. So it's a great question. Other than that, it still also does the old-fashioned way too. So you can pull the actual logical acquisition. So I mean, the text messages, if you do have an hour or so to go through that actual acquisition time, then by all means do it the old-fashioned way and pull them all off that way as well. But it's a good question because with link screen, the sky's the limit. Because if you can see it on their phone, then you have it on the DATAPILOT, which is awesome. So the same thing goes for pictures. I mean, you name it, anything that's on there, it's real neat.
So things that doesn't support, there's so many apps. There's no way, there's no way when I ran a small development team, there was no way we could keep up on everything. It was impossible.
And you have the individual apps. You have the individual apps for that individual phone. Then you have the individual apps for the individual phone on the individual operating system.
And then they decide to update 3 times in 1 week. Like, I broke the toll again. You
get link screen, and then you get everything, and you're good to go. So it's real cool. It's real neat. And the fact that we can do it for Androids and iPhones is awesome. And then even for burner phones, because we all get them, especially in law enforcement, if you're working with those cheaper phones that they look like they have a data port, but it's really just a charging port, and so it's not going to hook up to the software. DATAPILOT has a camera with OCR built into it on the back, so I call it my worst case scenario, my fail-safe scenario. Basically, you get that burner phone, you take a picture of the actual messages or picture or whatever you need that's on the device, on the phone, and the DATAPILOT will capture it, and then it will try to OCR it. So it's going to pull out any text that it finds in that picture and then convert it into actual text so that it's searchable, and then you can run it through your reports. So it's pretty cool.
That's awesome. Very cool. Yeah,
I get excited about it. I love this thing. It's like my baby. So I could talk about it all day. So ask away.
So we have more. I have another one here, but I'm going to preface this real quick. If you guys want to come up on stage and you're wearing pants, make sure you click down. I just put it in the chat down there. It's the Crowdcast setup. Since this is browser based, you just have to make sure your camera and your audio is going to work if you choose to come up. And I'll ask each of you if I don't hear anything that you want to or not, then that's fine as I get to you. So Jeremy Poll, I think it is. If you want to or not, let me know how we can pull you up on stage. And I'm just not going to read it. And this one doesn't have a username. So, there it is. Steven, it looks like as well. If you guys want to, it's entirely up to you whether you do or do not. So the lack of anything, I'm going to assume that you don't want to. So I'm going to go ahead and ask your questions, starting with Jeremy's here. Where's no camera? Oh, no worries, man. I appreciate it. So let me ask this one here. Is the grant exclusively for DATAPILOT, or are SV Strike and Burner Breaker covered here, or any other grant?
Yeah, a good question, actually. There is a, we basically have like a small, medium, large option. So it depends on budgets, because right when you're getting into the burner breaker and you're getting into the analytics like secure view and everything else, it tends to start getting, much more expensive. So what we've done is we've basically created a package for each thing so that you can get it affordably and be able to acquire that data quickly. So short answer is yes. Yes, there is. There's a package. It actually includes basically kind of all three. So there's one that has the DATAPILOT, secure view, and the certified training. And then one that has multiple units, multiple trainings as well, so that if you are a slightly larger agency or something like that, you can get those. So there are a few different options for you. And I believe all three of them cover at least 43% of the cost with the grant, which is awesome. So keep that in mind as well, which is neat. So even if something is normally thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars because it's on site and there's multiple units and analytics and everything else, it's still covering at least 43% of that, which is cool. Nice.
No, that's very cool. And I know how law enforcement gets sometimes, and they may or may not want to ask the question here in this group setting. Is there a way they can contact you fairly easy, that your preferred method of contact? What is that? How do you want to get you?
I will. I wonder if I can put it in here. Let me see. So
you should be able to just type right in there.
I'll put in my email address. I'm going to type it right now. Let me know if you guys see that. Hope you can. It's the letter J and then my last name, Kirby, Kirby at Susteen.com.
Yep.
And that'll come directly to me. So any questions that everyone has when done, just feel free to shoot them over my way, and I'll be more than happy to help you out. Neat thing is, again, with Susteen, we're all here in the US. So my guys are all over the country. So we come out, we do live presentations, demos, we do just live help. We do a lot of pro bono work as well, which is something I put in place, which I love to do because it's just fun. So if you guys ever get we always tell people, we're never going to turn someone down, obviously. So, I mean, if your agency is in need, they have a special phone or special help, we're always going to try to do our best, whether you have us or not, to assist that agency, and we can worry about things later. That's kind of our mantra, is to make sure that we're consistently helping people and being out there. So, in fact, I just tried to assist on a phone last week that was locked, but unfortunately they had already got it down to the point where there was only 4 attempts left and it would wipe. So even with a few of our ideas that we can do that can give us a few more attempts on a phone, it's one of those, unfortunately, I couldn't really work with. But again, that was something that we just wanted to do to try to help out, which is nice.
All right, another question here, and we may need to get some clarification on this one. This one's from Steven here. If our agency already has a license and I'm using Secure View Forensics, do we need a second license for the DATAPILOT 10, or we just need to pay for the device? Also, do we qualify? It's kind of a two-part here, so I apologize. Also, do we qualify for the DATAPILOT grant if we got a Secure View Forensics grant previously?
So short answer, yes, you would still be eligible. We open up there's about 25 or so spots, depending on where we are in the quarter, that have been used or non-used. We did limit it a lot more than in the past. In the past, it was just open. So if you met the needs, we would continuously try to make sure that everyone was fit. So we did have to limit it this time because of funding as well. But I can tell you, always definitely apply and put in for it. Because we will always try to help you out. And there are people that have to fall off too, that have applied for the grant, they've been approved, but they can't find the matching funds or something like that. So we do have people that fall off, and we always then can release those spots up to someone new, which is good. But yes, you would need that separate license for the DATAPILOT. It is a different tool. But yes, you can use the grant, and it would allow you to get that tool with the actual certified training on it as well. which is wonderful. So I would definitely, maybe I know Kevin put that button. It's somewhere, for me, it's on the bottom of my screen. It says apply for grant. Click right there, either now or when done. It'll open up a second website, and then you can literally fill it out online. Or I can send you a good old fashioned, PDF you can print out there at the agency. But we'd definitely be happy to help you out. Absolutely. Good question.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, it makes it a little bit easier. I think to fill it out online. I actually have it open on my screen over here to any clarifying questions, and it's really not long of an application to do.
The neat thing is it's needs based. It's not competitive. So in other words, if you have under the amount of sworn officers or sworn deputies, and some of you might think also that you're over, but if say you're working at a sheriff's office, some of those sworn deputies might be over at like the county jail, the county, that type of thing. Let us know too, because on a lot of times we're able to say, okay, sworn deputies that are actually at your office there, that's going to be under the amount. We'll count the jail as its own kind of entity, even though they're run by the sheriff's department. So keep that in mind as well. Always feel free to ask those questions too. So
I'm going to pop that up here real quick, Jeremy. And I'm trying to mess with my screen here. So you can see right here. Oh, let me make this bigger so we can shrink down here to the corner. There we go. Now we're in the corner. We're little bitty. So here, this is literally the whole application. It just tells you a little bit about it here and some of the qualifications and things that you got that are in here. It goes over the packages. Go ahead.
An important aspect of this one that was a slightly different from the old ones that we had done in the past, you must have someone go through the training. It is very important. We want to make sure that everyone is properly trained on the device before they use it. So just make sure that when you fill it out and when approved and everything else, that whether it's you or someone else at your agency, we do require them to do both a live webinar, and then we have our online certified training that you can go through at your own pace as well. The neat thing is it doesn't take too long because it's a real simple device. So that's great, but we do want to make sure that everyone is actively trained while out there using the devices as well.
Sure. And the form is super short. I mean, it's just essentially, a little bit more than what you'd sign up for an average webinar for that matter. And you just select your plan down here is what it looks, right? Yeah. You got
basically, you're not competing with, because these are in-house funds, you're not competing with other agencies. You just need to meet those needs, which is under the 160 sworn, and basically saying, yes, we need these tools. Not, in other words, I would love everyone in the country to use DataPilot, but if you already have 4 or 5 different digital forensic tools, then we still want you to buy the DataPilot. Just maybe leave the grant for someone that doesn't have that same budget or that same ability as you do. So that's what the grant is used for. So we tried to make it as easy as possible so that agencies can utilize it to get those tools. So I'm not saying don't get it if you have multiple tools, because you still need it to get out in the field, right? We still want you using this out there in the field instead of in the lab. But maybe on the grant side of things, consider leaving it for some of the smaller agencies that don't have the same capability.
Sure. And I think it's important to kind of develop a relationship with the lab folks so they are familiar with it. Now, even though, this is really intended for that first responder, the lab folks really need to kind of be in the loop too, because they're going to be the one. If you say I'm, street officer Bob, right? I go out there and I hook a phone up, and what I pull, and then as I'm looking through data, even though you had consent, and all of a sudden you come across something like, really bad, and you're going to want to send that to the lab for further analysis. And the lab needs to be kind of a heads up, like what's going on with this thing, right?
And what's great now too is that we have so many labs that they themselves are utilizing the DataPilots. They hook it up almost as a kiosk right there in the lab. In fact, I kind of nicknamed the DataPilot the kiosk killer because we had a lot of agencies that were about to get these real expensive kiosks, and they were like, "Oh, we're going to spread these throughout our state, and we can afford 5 of these." I'm like, "We can afford 100 DataPilots and get them in every city in the state." So we were actually able to get a few. But what's neat is the labs will literally set them up, and they'll either check them out when people come in, and then they'll check them out to go out in the field, and people will bring them back, just like you check out your walkie-talkie when you're leaving for the day. Same thing. It has a cradle. You have the Techno Power Kit. plugs right in, goes to the networks. You could easily, upload and offload your evidence data. But yeah, a lot of lab guys, and one of the main reasons is we are so quick to iterate for all the new updates that like Apple does. So we get responses all the time where they have, some equipment, and again, no naming names because all equipment's great as far as I'm concerned for digital forensics. Get as much as you can, but they'll have a very expensive suite. And because there's so much that goes into that suite, it's going to take their engineers a few extra weeks to be able to sometimes work with the newest iPhone updates or Android updates. And with us, because we're so laser focused on getting to that easy, that kind of surface data and a little deeper, but surface data quickly, that we're able to acquire data from those iPhones. Literally within a day or quicker, from a lot of the new updates, which is awesome. So we always are out there iterating monthly for those new things. And I have a lot of testimonials from, again, large agencies that have said, like, you guys were literally the first people to be able to support this new iOS operating system. Thank you so much. So we do have a lot of big labs that are using the devices now, which is awesome because, again, it's paramount, especially with that link screen, to be able to just easily get to the data. Whether you're in the lab or you're out in the field, you still want to be able to see that data quickly. And sometimes on like a Snapchat, doesn't matter what you have, you might not be able to get that unless you have the capabilities of the DataPilot. So it's awesome.
Nice. Yeah. And I think a lot of what you had talked about, there's a video on your website that covers a lot of that type of case use for the law enforcement crowd. And the link is up scrolled up in chat somewhere there if you take a look at it. Looks like I have another question for you. It's from Dave again. Thanks, Dave, for all the questions, number one. And here we go. Let me got to start answering. I always forget to hit this button. There we go. Does everyone who uses the device need to attend training, or is the training sufficient for the attendee to train other officers in their agency?
So this is my favorite part. So thank you for asking. We actually have two different trainings. So we have our certified training that anyone can take, for the DataPilot, but it's not needed. We actually host twice a month completely complimentary trainings for anyone at an agency on the DataPilot. And then not only do we get them fully trained to be able to use the device, but we do record the fact that they were in there. So if they are going to court, or if they are being asked, hey, did you know how to use this device? Then we actually have their name right there that they went through the training. That is completely free, completely complimentary for all users. And I shouldn't say that, not just all users, I mean all agencies. So yeah, I have people that got the grant. That's awesome. They have their one guy certified, but I actually, last week, we had one agency that had 13, mainly because, right, some of them were even out of their house. So they had nothing better to do. Really, they had 13 guys that were logged in to learn how to use the DataPilot. So now every single one of their detectives, I think there were 2 guys missing, but almost every single one of their detectives, it now has been through a training that was completely free, which is awesome. And again, it's because of our goal, which was not to create another product that's just going to drain budgets. And I should say also, not to create another product that is just trying to compete with the other forensic tools that you already have. If you do have them, it's built to complement them. And that's one of the main points that I guess I should have mentioned as well, is it complements the current tools. And what I mean by that is, while other ones sometimes make it a little hard to get the evidence data to put into, additional tools, we've specifically made DataPilot so that you can export that evidence into any forensic tool that you have, so that you can go ahead and parse it. We want you to parse with other tools. We want to play nice with others. We want you to push this through whatever tools that you have. Some do a better job than others, but we made it as easy as possible so that you can go ahead and use this tool along with whatever else you have in the lab, which is important. And again, it's a real part of what we wanted to do in our mission and vision, was to, again, make it as helpful for the law enforcement agencies as we could. So
yeah, no, that's huge. That's actually huge.
Yep.
Great. There's no more questions. I think we ran through the gambit of them, which is great. Is there anything that you wanted to add additional about specifically maybe the grant, or maybe an unknown feature of DataPilot that we should be aware of?
Sure. A few things. Number one, the grant was built for law enforcement. So if it is something that you can utilize, go for it. It's helped so many agencies. I'd love for it to help as many as possible. If for any reason we've run out of our slots, we do open more in different quarters throughout the year. So always keep coming back. But with the DataPilot itself, again, the main thing is that, again, it was something that we built that was specifically designed for law enforcement. It's not an all-encompassing product that was built to try to get into multiple areas. This was designed for first responders, for investigators, for people that need to get to that evidence quickly, not for people that need to go through 6 to 8 years of training to be able to do the forensics. So we made it specifically simple. We made it something that is extremely fast so you can get to the evidence data that you need. So it's all encompassing in that regard. You're still going to get the text, the emails, the call history, the pictures, the videos, even some deleted data on the SD cards and the USBs. If you have our Techno Data Kit, it is a full physical dump. So you are getting the full bin file or DD file. So it's awesome. That's really the best I can say. And not just because it's my baby, but it's an awesome tool. The feedback is great. And again, I love coming to work, whether I'm sitting at my house or in the new office in Irvine. We finally, for those of you that don't know, we just moved into this gorgeous new high rise by the airport in Irvine. It's glass and it's beautiful. And we haven't been able to use it once. We literally moved while we're all on social distancing. So even though I've been there for maybe a total of 4 hours and we've theoretically been moved for about 3 weeks now. So I'm excited to get to the new office. I love each and every day just coming to work with the people and getting to interact with everyone here as well, whether law enforcement or just other people in the industry. This is like the greatest industry to be in. It's amazing. So thank you guys, for everything that you
got a last minute question here, and Dave actually is going to come up on stage to ask it. So Dave, I'm going to attempt this without killing you or Jeremy here on not like actually doing it, but actually sending you virtually crowd surfing. There we go. All right, I'm going to click invite. Yes, invite Dave. All right, you should be coming up here, and I'll hit the record the question. Hopefully that will go through. You should have gotten that invite to the stage, Dave. I hope it will bring you up eventually. Maybe, hey, there he is. Let me go ahead and hit start. Hey, there you are.
Hi.
Hello.
Hey, I figured I'd make Kevin happy by offering to come up on stage. So here we go.
Appreciate it, man.
I was just curious to hear more about, a real value I see in the DataPilot is when we have victims come in or witnesses come in, not taking that device for days, but being able to do this right in front of them and just select. So when we're going through the different chat apps, is it just doing a screen recording as you're doing it, or still images? And then when the data comes off the DataPilot, what's the format and how easily can we distribute that to attorneys, to detectives, et cetera?
Sure. So it's taking a screen grab. So it wouldn't be a video of the messages.
Okay.
They would be individual shots and then individual hashes for those individual shots. When the data, and again, that's dependent, it doesn't really matter. It could be any app whatsoever because it's done the same way via the screen linking. And then when it comes off, that's really the best part is XML, SQL. You can export PDF however you'd like. So if you're going straight to the private market or you're going straight to the end user, like, okay, here's your data, then you're probably going to create a PDF report that they can then just read or thumb through, or even like highlight if they have, Adobe Acrobat, that type of thing. Whereas if you want them to be able to analyze it, then it depends on the file format, but you could give them the XML, you could give them the SQL, the actual database, which they can then parse through, or if it's the bin or the DD file, you can just literally throw it on a thumb drive and give them the entire bin or DD file to be able to parse later on as well. And then lastly, we actually have a free viewer, which is cool that you can send them and they can actually view the evidence data in the viewer. And then they can go through themselves and even highlight. It gives them app data, text messages. it's everything. And again, it's complementary, which is awesome. So
And so
that's neat as well.
For the non-technical person, you can just export it as a PDF, something you can attach to an email and send off, basically. Okay,
Yep.
perfect. Thanks.
You can send either the entire report, or if you just want to send them text, you can build the PDF just with the text messages or whatever. So that if you want to flag things ahead of time, that way, maybe they're getting 10 pages instead of 1,000 if you're doing a complete dump. But yeah, nice and simple.
Okay, thanks.
Cool. Hey, thanks, David. I appreciate it. Being the guinea pig for me. Thank you. Well, cool. That worked out pretty well.
Yeah.
So any other questions for Jeremy? You can either post them here in chat later, or go back and watch the replay, post it. I'll make sure he gets them. You can also use his email address that he's placed in chat there, jkirby@susteen.com. It's there. The application to the grant is either one of these, depending on where I'm at on your screen. It should be somewhere. Am I hitting it with one of my fingers? The button, the green button? All right, cool. Cool. Because I hate when they do the mirroring thing. That's when I really lose track of actually where the video is at.
It's below what seems to be a Millennium Falcon. I can't tell if that is a Millennium Falcon.
It's absolutely the Millennium Falcon rug.
That
is what that is. So very cool. So yeah, it's over here somewhere. So yeah, if you guys are interested in that. But other than that, Jeremy, thanks so much coming on and telling us all about DATAPILOT and some of the opportunities that you're giving out to law enforcement with the grant. I appreciate it, man. I really appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. It's been great. Thank you, everyone. I appreciate you guys taking an hour of your lives out and spending it with us. So thank you. Have a good day.
And it was very cool learning about some of the stuff that you tend to normally keep secret. So thanks for sharing that.
I don't mention it a lot. So Kevin's a good interviewer to get that out of me. So
no, you normally don't, because I knew you on and off for a couple. That's a cool one too. I've known you on and off for a couple of years now. I no idea whatsoever. Very cool. All right. Well, hey, thank you. And thank you everyone else for attending. And if you need to get a hold of Jeremy, you can go to datapilot.com and read about the DATAPILOT, or email him directly at jkirby@susteen.com. Hey, thanks everybody. Take care,
guys.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.